بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن سهلا إذا شئت. Okay. So, this is our third session, I believe, going over going over the review of the second half of 30th juz. So I believe last time where we stopped was all the way at the end of Surah Al-Nashrah. So we covered everything from the beginning of this document until the end of Al-Nashrah, except for two discussions which I skipped. So on Friday, our last class, I was pretty busy that day, so I didn't get a chance to look over some of these longer discussions, which I would have preferred to look over. And to be honest, I was kind of busy today as well, but I don't want to push these two discussions any further. So the two discussions that we skipped were the slavery in Islam, which is in regards to Surah Al-Balad, as well as this transgenderism discussion and the movement in the West. We skipped both these talks, so inshallah we could go through them quickly right now. I believe because these are such hot topics, I tried my best to explain them and if you look at the YouTube channel and the history of the videos and all that, if you just look at the videos, you'll probably see specific videos that are called transgenderism discussion, or I think that's what it's called, or slavery in Islam, part one, part two, part three, I believe. We spent quite a bit of time on both these discussions. So if you want more detail, then inshallah, please refer back to those previous videos, inshallah. So let's just get started. I'll just skim through and quickly read these documents that I have written out. So regarding slavery in Islam, there's two different things that we went over. The first being Mufti Taqi Usmani's, a translation of Mufti Taqi Usmani's discussion on slavery in Islam, translated from his Takmilatu Fath al-Mulhim, which is his commentary on Sahih Muslim, rather his completion of a unfinished commentary on Sahih Muslim, and as well as some discussions that I brought from an outside source, and basically this outside source whose name I'd rather not take, not to not give that individual credit, but just I think it'd be better just to maybe mention the name privately. So what I did was I just listened to a bunch of his talks and I put together basically the main points and main information. And so inshallah, let's just go through this quickly. Okay, so slavery in Islam. There's a book called War Before Civilization by Lawrence Keeley, and he says that pre-modern war was mainly about manpower. If you have a bigger army, you'll win. If you had too few people, this made you an easy target. So it's all about numbers. And numbers depend, it's all about the amount of people you have in your army. And that number of soldiers really depends on how many fertile wombs you have in your civilization. The more women who are at an age that they can give birth, the better you are going, the better the outlook is of the future. Okay, loss and gain of men will not much change the demographic position of a civilization, but if you have too few women, that is the difference between thriving and being annihilated. Assalamu alaikum, Thoban. I had just started the review. You didn't really miss much though, so you're good, inshallah. All I was saying was that we skipped two discussions about slavery in Islam and transgenderism. So I literally just started the slavery in Islam summarization discussion right now. So let me just repeat that one more time. The main point is that pre-modern war was mainly about manpower. So basically, that means that if you want to survive, you have to make sure you have soldiers, or else there's going to be a bigger army that overcomes and takes you. Therefore, you have to make sure that there are as many fertile wombs in your civilization as possible. Yani, there's women that could give birth. Because the more they could give birth, the more soldiers you have, and that means that's a better chance for you in the future against other powers and other armies and whatnot. So all pre-modern civilizations took slaves. Sorry, I don't mean to just just have you just jump in the middle, but I don't want to like restart this whole thing. My fault, man. So all, Okay. All pre-modern civilizations took slaves. If you don't have any concubines, you are at a huge disadvantage militarily because you either take them or you face annihilation. So, although neither of these two situations may be ideal, either taking concubines, sex slaves, or being killed and slaughtered by an opposing army, there's really no third option. And that is the nature of war. I think sometimes it's important that we kind of get this fantasy out of our head of living in like a utopia or not really understand. Alhamdulillah, like Allah Ta'ala has saved us from that sort of that khawf, and He has saved us from that difficult situation that many people around the world are in. But that's the nature of war, and it's tough decisions that need to be made. So yes, taking sex slaves is not just morally justified, but it was in reality necessary that they be taken. So that's enough of an argument. It's worth to mention our Sharia has integrated slaves in a most beautiful fashion and is the most humane than any other civilization. For example, women, she can't be mutilated or she can't be prostituted out just to like make a quick buck off of. If she give birth, if she gives birth to the master's baby, she'll be free when he dies. That's called the Ummul Walad. A lot of ahadith and of course the books of fiqh and the commentaries of the ahadith works. They go into a lot of detail on this. There's many other examples. So, like I said, slavery and war isn't a fun time, but our deen covers every aspect of life. And what's notable to mention is that we can very confidently claim that our Sharia, our Islamic law, does the best job at preserving marriage and family. Whereas, in all honesty, you look at the West now, and it's on a downhill in terms of how its outlook on marriage. It's but I mean, you have people saying just stuff like it's um it's a sham, it's a joke, it's like the worst constitution or the worst institution to be established in this country. And of course now with the way that society is moving, that for a man, if he can get um his sexual desires fulfilled outside of marriage, like for what reason? Like if you really look at it very simply, it's a I don't want to say like if you look at it very simply, like the role of the husband will be to provide, and the role of the woman it will be to bear children. Okay, so like Soban, I don't mean to put you on the spot, bro, but like if someone asked you, like, I have a perfect match, literally a perfect rishta match for you, Soban, that and this girl is 100%, 110%, like you guys will have the happiest life together, except there is no possibility of you having intercourse with her. You're not gonna take that. I'm not even gonna let you answer that just to not put you on the spot or anything. But you're not gonna take that deal, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna be like, let me just I'll take my chances elsewhere, right? Would you? Okay, like unless you disagree. I mean, if you disagree, go ahead. Yeah, exactly, right? Like okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but yeah, no guy's gonna take that, right? No matter how amazing the girl is, no matter what type of money she has, what type of whatever thing you could think of, no guy, no individual is gonna take that. And maybe I'm reaching here. I don't think so though. But like any woman who's any individual man who's guarantees that he will never work a day in his life and that he is gonna depend on the wife and her family to, or just the wife. I maybe it might be a cop out to say her family, but her wife. It might. He says that he's gonna depend solely on his wife to bring in the money. Then show me who's gonna take that. Which woman's gonna take that? Okay. Okay, so where was I even going with all that? Yes, so Sharia, we can claim very confidently, does a great job at preserving family and marriage. Okay, like I said it like so many times. I gotta try to be faster and keep it short and quick and sweet, but um, apologies. Mm, okay, so and if you don't take the women of a conquered tribe, then what will happen to these women? Either they all die, I mean, they're not surviving, or someone else will come take them as their own sex slaves, as their own concubines. Then I have something funny in parentheses that I don't want to share a second time. I think the first time, I think when I had said this joke, I had to like edit the video and it took so long, but whatever. it's important. Okay, now this is an important thing that the speaker had mentioned. It's important to actually be well aware and well versed with these topics. For example, this marriage and divorce and women's rights and like slavery, of course. What else? What else is a hot topic? This whole like gender and sex and abortion. What else? You know, yeah. I'm saying like, you know, all these like this topic, all these different topics, dude, that we're talking about, it's very important for us to be aware of them. Very important for us to constantly just updating our arguments and updating our information and um it's because if we shy away from these things, it might create this shubha. It might create like a doubt in not only our minds but the people around us that are different Muslims around us who are maybe aren't blessed and aren't as blessed to be as educated as us on these topics. I'm speaking very highly of myself right now, unfortunately. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's important that we be well versed and well educated on these topics and know what we're saying, so that we don't cause doubts in anyone else's minds, and of course we save ourselves from any doubts. Or else, if we're not well versed in these topics, then what makes it seem like we're trying to like promote a like we're trying to like hide something, that or we're trying to like shy away from a part of our deen, which of course that's not the case. Okay, now that's just the slavery thing. If you have any other questions or anything regarding that, we could definitely talk about it more, but I'll just stop there for now. As for the transgenderism thing, what did I say? There's like four different layers to this whole transgenderism discussion. I remember the first one and the last one. I'm forgetting what the other two were. Maybe if I read through this quickly, then inshallah we can. I'll remember what those four were. So, can a man be a woman? Can a woman be a man, of course? In the past few years, we've heard a lot of statements like we must not raise boys as boys. We can't be sure that kids have the assigned sex assigned to them at their birth. And we hear stuff like there are men in women's body and women in men's body. So this is an insane ideological nonsense. There are two sexes, male and females. Okay, so then there's this portion of the write up includes some of the biological features of the two sexes. I guess maybe we could skip that and not go into all the detail. As for the anomalies, one common ishkal that's brought up is that there's people that have both genitalia. There's people that they like intersex or I think there's another word for that. What am I? Hermaphrodite. I don't know if that's PC or not, but like okay, it's fine. Or people, okay, so what do you say about people that have both genitalia, and this does happen, and although it's rare, it's like it's a documented occurrence. So now the presence of abnormal development does not mean that sex is a spectrum. To suggest otherwise would be the same as saying a person that has three toes or a person that doesn't have all five fingers. That means that the norm is not that a person has five fingers. You're not going to say that toes and fingers are now on a spectrum. All reproduction is rooted in the I don't even know what this is. Yeah, just enforcing the idea of sexual dimorphism. Yani there's two. So to pretend otherwise is nonsensical. Okay, let me just skip through this. It also points to a. I mean, I know I'm definitely not qualified to talk about this, but let me. It's just food for thought. Is that you see, the inishkal that's made is that people might say that, hey, we have thousands and thousands, and dare I say, hundreds of thousands, maybe even million. I don't know how many doctors there are in the states, but like we have like basically an ijma, a consensus um of the medical field that says that, hey, this is something that's we were wrong. There's no such thing as like we were wrong about there being two genders, and what the reality is that sex is a spectrum. So what would be the so now if a person was to say that to you, if a person says that all doctors or almost all doctors believe that sex is a spectrum and that yada yada yada. So now it seems like a strong argument. What I would respond with maybe twofold is that first is that okay, the first one maybe not a response, but again like just food for thought is that it shows that there is a political agenda behind this. You know, a lot of doctors that may say that, Ursan, maybe you could speak about this more, is that, sorry, I know, my bad, is that, you know, just because like so many doctors say that, hey, yeah, sex is a spectrum and we've been wrong this whole time. And, you know, we need to throw out the old science books and bring in the new ones and all this stuff. It shows that there is an underlying political agenda, which is something to be aware about when, like, you know, um, being aware of the world. And secondly, I guess this would be my actual response is that for a doctor to make this claim, it's not necessarily a physical or empirical or scientific claim, which is their field. Rather, it would be a philosophical claim, which is not their field. Maybe I'm out of my league over right here, Solana, unless you would agree, Doctor Sub. Yeah, to say something to make a claim about contrary to sexual dimorphism, to use this whatever this random phraseology I was using. But yeah, I think to say contrary to that would be a philosophical claim as opposed to like an empirical or scientific claim, which would be out of their realm of expertise. Therefore, their consensus would not be as strong as a person may think it is. Hmm. Another fallacy is that those medical experts or pseudo experts who say that gender identity is completely separate from sex, this is due to a fallacy. That fallacy is gender is entirely socially constructed and thus separate from biology. Gender is in definition refers to sorry gender in this definition refers to all the various feminine qualities that relate to womanhood, as well as masculine qualities that relate to manhood. According to these folks, gender and sex are completely different. All of those gender notions of femininity are completely separate from being a biological female. To say that you could be a woman in a man's body because your gender identity is separate from your sex is unsupported at any level. And in this document, we discuss basically the biological aspects of it. Okay, let's skip that. Some history of the gender movement. We could skip that as well. Mm. So anyone suffering from a mental disorder does not change your underlying sex any more than me believing that I am a werewolf makes me a werewolf. You can't making a claim like that wouldn't just change the reality. Al-haq. I think this is where I brought the first line of Aqaid al-Nasafiyya, right? قال أهل الحق حقائق الأشياء ثابتة. That's the first line of Aqaid al-Nasafiyya. That's a very famous work. I think I talked about it in the actual when we actually went through this thing in detail. And what he says in the first line is that how do you define truth? What is the definition of truth? The definition of truth, as he says, is that not in that line that I just read in Arabic, but a little bit later in the matan. Maybe it's Taftazani in Shara Aqaid. But he says that haq, the definition of truth is that which is congruent, that which is in accordance to the outer reality, that which is in congruence to the reality, to that which is visible, that which you could affirm. So just to make a claim about this one thing being that thing, you can objectively make a statement that um, it's true or false. So transgender activists make an objective claim about reality based on subjective internal feelings, and that's not sustainable. Moreover, transgender activists say that you must abandon reason, biology, privacy, and even speech with kids and child rearing that is in accordance to reality in favor of a delusional, quasi religious worldview in which gender and sex is completely separated and where boys can be girls and girls can be boys. SubhanAllah. Okay, my fault. So, and then maybe just the last thing to mention is that, of course, anyone who is saying this or taking our position, taking this position that I am saying right now, no one is promoting mistreatment or violence. Anyone with a mental problem needs help, treatment, and care. But if a society seeks to propagate, to spread this propaganda to its children and to help them switch their genders and is basically just lying to an entire generation, they're definitely doing more harm than good. I don't know if you guys have seen some of these public school curriculums. Bro, subhanallah, dude. I could see if I could. I remember Mufti Sabit shared with us on our our Tirmizi group chat, so I could see if I could find those like articles. And even in Chicago, dude, Chicago, like Illinois is it's a blue state, yeah. It's pretty liberal. Yeah, so you should have seen like one of these things that page maybe Cook County, Kane County, whatever, that they had set forth, and they were just seeing like the review and the feedback from the schools. And I think actually a majority of the schools denied it. It was like a crazy thing about like teaching about like sexual theory, like what is it called, gender theory and all this or other random stuff, to like from like age 2 plus, something like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then alhamdulillah, like most of the schools seem to have rejected it and not included it in their curriculum, although it's still it shows where it's going. Another thing is this whole transgender thing is I think I had said this last time though, is that famous line of what is a woman, and then you have those absolutely hilarious responses, is that in the end a man who claims to be a woman is making an unsubstantial claim because he doesn't even know what it's like to be a woman. Okay, so a man with surgeries or hormones does not become a woman, nor does he feel like a woman. This is all political propaganda. Okay, so those are two discussions that I didn't go over on Friday, and I'm because I just wasn't prepared. And it didn't seem like I did much better right now. But okay, so now continuing from where we actually left off was Surah At-Teen. And in that document, study guide on that Google Doc that I had shared, starting from Surah At-Teen, we have ayahs 1. The first point to go over is ayahs 1 to 3. What are the different opinions and what is preferred? This one's tough. It's pretty long, that's why. So how about if it's all right with you guys, I could just say it as quickly as I could say it, inshallah. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين. Ayahs 1 to 3 and the different opinions regarding what these mean. So, watini was zaytun. By the fig, watin is the fig, like the fruit, and was zaytun is the olive. Waturi sinin, and tur and the Mount Tur of Sinai. The Mount Tur of Sinai. So Tur is the name of the mountain, and Sinin is the place. وهذا البلد الأمين. All these are wow of qasam. That's why it's watini was zaytuni. Or that first wow is going to be wow al qasam, and that second wow is wow al atf. Unless I'm mistaken, and they're both wow al qasam. Waturi sinin. Then and that again, the qasam, basically the i'rab of the qasam is still continuing. And وهذا البلد الأمين. So that's why it's all majroor. Qasam is going to make the next, it's going to make the word majroor in the state of jar. And by this secure city. وهذا البلد الأمين, by this secure city. Okay, number 3 is very obvious. It's referring to Makkah. The ayah number 3 is referring to Makkah al-Mukarramah. Now we could just ayah number 2, وطور سينين. والجبل الذي كلم عليه موسى وهو بالشام أضافه الله إلى سينين. So the Mount Tur is the mountain in which Musa alayhi salam was present, and he, the events of his of like well, if we could call it the start of his prophethood, that's where it began, and where he spoke to Allah Ta'ala, and all these different miraculous things took place. His staff turned into the snake, and his hand becoming glowing bright. So this is Watur is the name of a mountain in which Musa alayhi salam spoke to Allah Ta'ala. Wahua bisham, and it is in the area of Sham. Asham. So now I don't know if I brought this up. Sham is a would be considered present day a multitude of countries. Let me just Google it to see if I could find an exact answer. The thing is, comes up a lot, so it'd be good to know exactly what's being referred to in present day. Sham is translated as the Levant. So now, what is that exactly? Which countries is it? I'm googling it right now just to see if okay. So it says which includes present day Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria. Sorry, and most of Turkey southwest of the Middle Euphrates. So let me zoom in on this. Yeah, let me see if I could just flip this camera around. And don't laugh at me for like the 19 tabs I have open. But that would be basically the Levant, and when Sham is discussed, it's all these different countries. Okay, it doesn't have the names, so and also like Syria and stuff like that also. And how's your geography, man? Yeah, yeah, Syria, Syria. Yeah, yeah. So it says which includes present day Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and the Palestinian territories and most of Turkey. Syria is included. Yeah, it's north of Saudi Arabia, basically north, and like if you stretch it out a little bit, that's basically what's referred to as Sham. That's all. That was. No, it doesn't seem to extend that far east. Yeah, interesting. Okay, but that was just like a random Google search. So perhaps maybe our ulama and our historians might have. I wouldn't assume like such a huge difference in what the territory covers, but that's basically the general idea. I don't mean for that to be like like the final verdict on what exactly is Sham. Okay, and okay now as for what tini was zaytun by the fig and the olive. So now what some ulama say is that what tin was zaytun, they're most likely referring to a place. Why? Because ayahs 2 and 3, which are all connected with ayah number 1, they're both of those are referring to places. What Turi Sinin is referring to where Musa alayhi salam talked to Allah Ta'ala. Ayah number 3 is talking about Makkah where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam received his revelation. Why would just the random fruits be mentioned? So that's one argument. The other argument is that these fruits are being mentioned explicitly, and then the fruits of these two of the next two places are being intended. Sorry, so like the Tur Sinin is had they it had a specific tree, it had a specific fruit that would grow around it, as well as in of course in Saudi Arabia, Makkah, and all these present day Saudi Arabia, a lot of dates and stuff. So that's that. والتين والزيتون أنه التين الذي يؤكل والزيتون الذي يعصر أقسم الله بها يفضل. So, yeah, so like I said, the first opinion is that watini wa zaytun is literally referring to the fruits of fig and olive. Allah Ta'ala is taking an oath by them because of their virtue over all other fruits. Then there's some narration. And then, okay, and then the other opinion, as I said, is that it's referring to places. And what are these places? There's a couple of different opinions. Huma Jabalani Bisham, that Watini wa Zaytun are two mountains also in Sham. And they're called this because there was a mountain in Damascus which had a lot of figs around it, and there was another in Elia, another city in which there was a lot of olives around it. So instead of referring to the names of the places, simply their famous fruit was brought up. Just like how like Florida's the orange state. Like you say orange, and if you had to pick a state, you had to pick Florida. What else are you picking? You think of potatoes, Idaho, right? Potatoes. Okay, and then we have Qil Hatin Masjid Damashq, a masjid in the city of Damascus, and was Zaytun referring to the Bayt al-Maqdis, and Atin. The third opinion is referring to the masjid of Nuh alayhi salam, and Zaytun referring to the masjid of Ibrahim alayhi salam. والأظهر أنهما الموضعان بالشام موضعان بالشام وهما اللذان كان فيهما so he says that the more apparent meaning is that because ayahs 2 and 3 are talking about Musa alayhi salam and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it seems like Watini was Zaytun is referring to the first being that the city or the place, the area, the general area in which Isa alayhi salam was born and where he lived. Uh, well, that's it, I guess. The birthplace of Isa alayhi salam, and like where he resided. But Teen, his birthplace, and it was Zaytun, the place that he resided. So his Nazareth, right? Jesus of Nazareth. Okay. Anyways, I don't. Like I said, doing a very terrible job at keeping keeping time and keeping pace. Anyways, okay, I number six of Surah Al-Teen still. What is explain the differences in the i'rab of illa in this verse? This is a bit complicated. I remember when I was explaining this too, I had to make sure I said it a couple of times to make sure I really um, got the idea through. So we said لَقَدْ خَلَقْ ayah number four. It's connected. All this 4, 5, and 6 I believe are connected in this question. That Allah Ta'ala says لَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ayah number 4 of Surah Al-Teen, that most surely we have created humans and mankind in the best of fashions. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ, then we return him, we make him turn back into then we reduce him to the lowest of the low. This is referring to like being senile in old age, and as well as of course physical and being fatigued and lethargic and whatnot, not having the same vigor of youth. Okay, then it says Allah Ta'ala says إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, except for those individuals who believe. So now the question is, okay, the masala is what type of illa is this? You've in Tashil Nahu, you guys did Tashil Nahu, and did you do any other Nahu book with it? Okay, so in Tashil Nahu, you have learned about the istithna muttasil and munqati'. Muttasil and munqati'. So muttasil means that this thing that you're excluding is part of that original group. منقطع, it's اتصل يتصل اتصال for something coming from the root letters of wow, sad, lam, and there's ta'lid that goes on and all this stuff, and then yeah. So then what wasl means for something to be connected, منقطع to qata', to cut. So منقطع means that it's separated and it's not included. So منقطع بمعنى لكن. So if it's منقطع, it's going to be لكن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. So let's say this. Let me read off what he's saying here. Where to go? Where to go? Okay, so the first he explains the istithna munqati' first. That Allah Ta'ala says that لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Taqweem here is of course كمال العقل والشباب والقوة, for a person to be at the height of their intellect and of their youthly energy and power. And then أسفل سافلين is referring to becoming old and senile and weak and all that stuff. And this is of course muwafiq with other ayat of Quran. So وقوله إلا الذين آمنوا, إلا الذين آمنوا, هذا غير متصل بما قبله, والاستثناء على هذا القول منقطع. So this will be استثناء منقطع. It's not connected. This إلا الذين آمنوا, according to this opinion, is not connected to the previous thing. Why? Because of course there's people who believe in Allah Ta'ala, they do good deeds, but yes, they still might become senile, they still might become old, they become old, and they still might like lose their senses and stuff like that. It's not like that would be a dalil and like an evidence that hey, maybe this guy wasn't from those alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. No, it's just simply a separate sentence from what was mentioned previously. والآخر أن حسن التقويم الفطرة على الإيمان أسفل سافلين الكفر. Whereas if you say لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين, that there are some individuals who have been given the perfect form of, and they've been granted iman, they've been granted Islam, and there's some individuals who are أسفل سافلين, they die upon kufr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. So now of course that would be muttasil. Allah Ta'ala is saying except for those individuals who believe, they're going to be rewarded for all the good that they did. So that was illa, the two possible meanings of illa over there. What do we say at the end of reciting the surah? So Mufti Shafi, he mentions this. Maybe Tashil mentions it as well, but I don't remember that. Reading it over there. At the end of the surah, we should say, Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala an narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that while reciting Surah Al-Teen, when one reaches the end of it, alayhi sallahu bi ahkam al-hakimin, the eighth and final ayah of the surah, one should say, Bala wa ana ala dhalika min ash-shahideen. Bala wa ana ala dhalika min ash-shahideen. Yes, indeed, Allah is the ruler of the rulers, and I bear witness to it. So the fuqaha have ruled that it is mustahab, desirable, to recite these words. Person's not going to be sinful or anything if they choose to leave, if they leave it out for whatever reason. Okay, Surah Al-Alaq, the next surah. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. So now, what is the sabab al-nuzul of this surah? You guys want to say this one? I kind of need some water, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, exactly. So this is the first surah revealed, and yeah, actually, you're right. Maybe Sabun Nuzul might have been a weird way to word it, but you guys are all familiar with that, the famous story of the first experience of revelation. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam was in the cave of Hira, contemplating over Allah Ta'ala and how to bring his people back onto Tawheed. And then the angel Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came to him and um, told him that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is to begin his prophetic mission of calling people to Allah Ta'ala. And of course, there was the miraculous event of the hugging and the squeezing, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam received the first five verses of Surah Al-Alaq. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. When he returned home, of course, he was freaking out and he was like, shocked. So then he went to his wife Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, and she believed in his claim immediately, and they went to her cousin, and when they told him, he also affirmed that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or he told him that this was the same exact, and this is the same. This is a testament to his prophethood, and that he is truthful in his claim. Okay, anyways, um, that was how this surah began. How do we reconcile between different reports which say that Surah Al-Fatiha was the first surah revealed, where other reports say that Surah Al-Muddathir was the first revelation? You guys remember the answer to this one? All right. So what we say is that Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay, specifically for narrations that say that hey, Surah Al-Fatiha was actually the first revelation. Okay, so one important principle that we keep in mind, and this is really this what I'm about to mention now is like the real reason that I put this bullet point here, is that we have to keep in mind that we don't want to disrespect any scholar. We don't want to disrespect any legitimate scholar. Let me qualify that. We don't want to just disrespect any, of course, any Sahabi, any Tabi'i, any of the early generation of Muslims. We don't want to um we don't want to just like brush it off and be like, hey, that was like a mistake on their part, or that was a huge blunder, or they messed up, or of course we don't want to go as far as disrespecting anyone and calling them names and whatnot. So one thing that we need to be mindful of is, especially when it's referring to like these early generations of the Sahaba and the Tabi'in and Tabi'in, is that if there is maybe something that doesn't seem 100% accurate, we should try to qualify their statements. We should try to, I don't want to say bend the truth. That's not what we're going for. Sometimes it is just you just gotta say it, say the haq. But you have to interpret things in a certain way, and sometimes it's not too much of a stretch. That's the real reason that I had mentioned this. So now, when we see narrations of certain individuals that say that, hey, Surah Al-Fatiha was the first revelation, perhaps what they meant was it was the first full surah to be revealed. It was the first full surah, whereas Surah Al-Alaq wasn't the first full surah. Any report that says that Surah Al-Muddathir was the first revelation was perhaps what they meant by that was that these individuals meant that um, after the long break in the revelation, after the Jibril alayhi salam hadn't come to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam with any new revelation, then after that huge break, then this Surah Al-Muddathir is revealed. It's like, hey, it's like the first revelation because it's been so long. So that's possible ways to interpret it. Additionally, now one thing that people kind of, I'm sure you guys would agree that it's good to be respectful in this way. One thing that kind of a lot of people don't do is that they, especially ideal, like a lot of people just bag on a Deobandi ulama. Um, so that's why you may hear people say like the Deobandis are bal mudil, they're misguided and they misguide others and stuff. Yeah, that's not the case. If you read their works, we're just Maturidi Hanafis, where it's Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah stuff. Perhaps if there is some things that the Akabir say that doesn't seem to be that maybe like we're questioning it, we should definitely seek an answer, and at the very least, we should have the courtesy and the decency to do what I had mentioned. It's like that principle that we follow. Basically, now, why do we have this principle? Is we're supposed to have husnul dhan. We're supposed to have good thoughts about people. Are we supposed to be trying to put people down? Are we supposed to be trying to take people out of the fold of Islam? Even are we supposed to be trying to like disrespect people, bag on people? No, of course not. So it's all under the this umbrella of having husnul dhan, having good thoughts, having not rushing to any bad conclusions or any bad thoughts and stuff like that. Yeah, go ahead. You look like you're raising your hand. Go ahead. Okay, so it's the the ishkals and the objections that people may make against Deobandis or even like Ottoman scholars or any like what has just basically just for the sake of historical ease, we just group these people together, right? Or maybe if you want to call it like academic affiliation might be another way to say it. But there's two different sides to it. There's belief and there's practice. In practice, there is some difference of opinion. We have the madhab, we have the four madhab. There's of course there's ijtihad. There is a valid scope of differences, and we don't just like how like okay, let's say before the Deobandis 500 years ago. Like if I was a Hanafi, someone else was a Shafi, someone else was Maliki, like that's not gonna be like we're not gonna be like sitting there doing takfir of each other. Like no, we have our opinions, we follow who we follow, and that's it. Khalas. Like what else is there to that, right? Now if a person's just like a straight up Salafi, and then they even go beyond like a step beyond and say that hey, you're wrong about that too, and let me argue. Okay, so now that's one discussion. As okay, but okay, so that's one aspect of it. That between mainstream non-Salafi like Muslims is that in terms of like madahib, in terms of the fiqh, there is differences of opinion there's a valid scope of difference of opinion. As for aqaid, like that's more serious, right? You can't have I mean, I can't be there can't be one Muslim believing in one Allah and another Muslim believing in two Allahs, right? That's not how it works. There's no like um interpretation or like a scope of interpretation over there. So now, how do we determine what is correct aqaid? For us, it's what the scholar of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah states. We're not Shi'i, we're not Khawarij, Rawafid, or whatever, Mu'tazili, and all these sorts of different sects who had these different methodologies, and different agendas, and different priorities. Rather, um, our slogan is following the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as practiced by the Sahaba, pretty much. Which is shout out to Jamaat. Definitely make sure you go on Jamaat, inshallah. So now, okay, where was I going? Is that anything that's basically outside of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And academically, what do we call Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah? We call them the Maturidis and Ash'aris. That's what the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah is. We call them Maturidis and Ash'aris. Now, if you're gonna go beyond, and again, just like how there's people in like the fiqh aspect that say, nope, 500 years ago, there was people that were civil enough to have differences in madahib, and they respected that. But I'm actually going to go a step beyond that and say that even the madahib are wrong, and we need to take another step back. Now, there's people that, of course, in the Maturidi Ash'ari field, they also take a step back and be like, those two groups are wrong too. They're not actual Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right? Right. If you look at all of Islamic civilization for the past 1400 years, or maybe not 1400 years, but for how many centuries is that every single scholar has been Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, one of the four, and they've been Ash'ari, Maturidi, or Hanbali, right? So to go be to okay, so I'm assuming this brother that is coming at you is taking that extra step and attacking you from and saying that you shouldn't be following madhabs and you shouldn't be like okay. So now that's one group. Now another more mainstream group is the differences between just be, the actual differences between the four madhahib and just the academic differences between the Hanafis, the Ash'aris and Maturidis. Okay, so that's fine. Like we could deal with this in a civil manner. We could deal with these people who I'm a Hanafi. I want to debate the Dalal of the Hanafis on this masala, and you're a Shafi. Let's debate the Dalal on on this masala. Let's go at it. At the end of the day, I'm still gonna be Hanafi. You're still gonna be Shafi. Nothing's gonna change, right? Or between the okay, and now in this group, how would you in this civil group of people that accept Hanafis, Malikis, Shafis, Hanbalis, and Maturidis, Ash'aris, how would you convince them that, hey, Deobandis are legit? We're not something new. We're just an extension of Sunni Islam, and that happened to come up in 20th century India. All you need to show them is that we're Hanafis, we're Maturidis. Case closed. That person can't argue with you anymore, right? The person can't be like, hey, you're not part of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. What does it mean to be Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah? There's two things. Just to recap. It's Aqidah and Fiqh. In Aqidah, we're Maturidis, and Fiqh, we're Hanafis, and that's in the fold of acceptable Islam too with the mainstream Muslims. If you can convince a person of that, you convince them that Deobandis are fine. Um, and how would you convince them? Show them our books. Al-Muhannad al-Muhannad al-Mufannad. Al-Mufannad al-Muhannad al-Mufannad على المفند, yes. Al-Muhannad على المفند is a work by Mullah Khalil Ahmad Saharanpuri, who's basically like second generation Deoband. Like you'd be like the level below like the founders of Deoband, basically. And he wrote a book regarding the aqaid and the beliefs of Deobandis. And he just lays it. He like literally the first thing that he says is that what you guys believe Sunni Islam is Ash'aris, Maturidis, like Ahlus, like in terms of creed and the four madhabs. That's us. So now you have like there's really no argument. Do you get I know I'm kind of going all over the place and going a little bit fast. Do you get what I'm going with? You get what I'm saying? No, 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 I understand. Yeah. So to any normal Muslim, any mainstream Muslim who's not like doesn't have like a Salafi agenda or like a modernist Muslim or all these sort of different things, any normal Muslim, you want to convince them that a Deobandi is a legit Muslim, just tell them that we follow Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah in both the Aqidah and in fiqh. That's discussion closed basically. Now, how would you discuss to the people that's maybe not mainstream Muslims and they're Salafis or they're modernists and their stuff? How you go take them to Maul Yusuf? That's what you do. Okay. Man, like that's a whole another discussion about what is the legal ruling of following a madhab, convincing and showing a person that why following a madhab is safer, showing a person why this has been the practice of our ulama and Muslim it's a civilization of value really. I would go as far to say that is that we never really seen after the development of the madhab, you haven't seen people not adopt that. So we could see like the Muslims wholeheartedly adopt it. Of course, there's anomalies as there is with everything. So then the discussion at that point would just be to show people why following a madhab is correct, and then you bring them back to this side on for that branch, and the other branch for in terms of aqaid is a probably a much more difficult discussion to have in reality, and you would have to show people why it's okay that we do the things that we do. The Salafis, for example, they're big on that concept that we talked about on Friday, maybe it was Monday last week about ta'wil and tafweed. That's a one masala to them. And I'm no expert in any science, but it would seem like I don't. It's difficult to kind of pinpoint what might be the heart of the issue for individuals. You just have to show them that Ash'ariism and Maturidiism is not wrong. And you have to show them the following a madhab is not wrong. So at the very least, we're on common ground. Although we may not agree, but at least you can't say like at least like a Salafi won't tell me, hey, you're not a Muslim, right? For believing and practicing the way that I do. No, you're good. Wait, was it Dio Bundy guy that was yelling at everybody? Wait, so it was like a Salafi guy that was just yelling. Ah, you know that money questions that we had the other day, and then I was like, hey, let me talk to someone about it, and then I'll get back to y'all. Let me add this one to the list. Why do such oh man, I got the Arabic keyboard on. I did actually. Actually, Soban, go ahead. You could ask. Wait, did you have anything more to say, Arsalan? I can't really answer that right now, in all honesty. Yeah, you can make that about. You can say that about everything, though. I mean, how many devout Christians are there that dedicated their lives to their religion? How many? You just talked about the transgender people that are just like so adamant on this whole like and why do they believe that, man? Who knows, man? Like it's so many factors of like nature, nurture, all that stuff. What they believe in, the trauma that they have, their experiences, their different traumas, their different battles, struggles, and all that stuff. But in terms of the why did they so adamantly believe in it academically? Maybe is that more what you're going for? Or are you going for the more like a psychological? Okay. Why do, yes. Okay. That's a good. Uh, why do um, and and believe it to be academically correct? Okay, that's a great question. So I can get back to you on that one, inshallah. All right. So Ban, go ahead. So Ben, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay, well, just one clarification. So you're saying there? Oh, my fault. My bad. My bad. I didn't realize I was muted. So just one clarification that regarding the situation. So even like for people, you're saying that if you were to say to these individuals that, um, we we reject and we're not a part of, for example, Qadianis, namely, that's a very clear example. They're not Muslims. They reject the finality of the prophethood of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as well as other things. For example, and if you were to say that, would they be like, hey, why are you being like a sectarianist? Why are you bringing all this division in? Are you saying that's something that would happen? Yeah, you have to really get in borderline. Ooh, that's not good. Okay, because the thing is, Allah Taala educated us. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was an educator. So there are certain things that I guess let's start with the Aqidah stuff first. Maybe we could save the Mazhab one for a different time. We're already kind of past time. If you gotta go, Arsalan, feel free. But yeah, for like this whole like Qadianisms, and the people say that hey, there's no reason for us to start calling people out, and we should try to be more inclusive. We should try to. And in reality, what's going to happen is that the lines will be blurred. People are gonna have, of course, they're gonna have their own aqidah messed up. But what's happening is that the reason we're doing it is because we, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Sahaba and the following generations have upheld the proper tradition of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There is a right and there is a wrong. There are things that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam believed, and those are the things that we believe in. There are things that he um, did do and he didn't do, and those are the things that we try to practice as well. So where I'm going with this is that we have been taught what is right and wrong. To pretend that there is no right and wrong would basically just be as wishy-washy as you want, and then not really believing in anything, right? You're gonna be folding, and you're gonna be you're a sellout at that point. I know it's kind of harsh. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I don't know if you'd agree with that. If you're not standing up for anything, you're trying to be inclusive and you're trying to include everyone and not hurt feelings and stuff, then you're selling out and you're not upholding what this deen really is. Another way I guess I would also respond is that we're doing a favor, really, to this is a khidmah, this is something that's rewarding for a person to say that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was not the final prophet, or he said he got the prophet accidentally, and then we defend his honor against that. How are we doing something wrong? I would gladly be called a sectarianist if that means if because I'm doing takfir of Qadianis, or people have a belief in the non-finality of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. At that point, it's just like uh, you're not academically backing up anything and you're just name calling at that point. It's child's play. So I mean, we're not trying to be sectarianists in the sense that or cause division and stuff just to fracture things. Rather, we're doing it to uphold and keep strong what really Sunni Islam is. Does that make sense? Okay, that I guess that would be more on the Aqidah side, those two things. As for the madhab sides and Uh, it's 9:06. Is it okay? Maybe we could go over it a different time, perhaps. Yeah, I apologize. Today's Monday. Yeah, we'll meet on Friday. Inshallah, we could talk about this again. Are madhabs? How would you? Let me just so I can write it down. How would you phrase the questions? Are madhabs a manifestation of sectarianism? Is that a good way to put the question, or do you want me to word it somehow? Okay, good. And then I feel like if I word it like this, I'll be able to remember like those different ahadith and stuff that you brought up and all that, inshallah. Okay, all right. So Great discussions. Um, we could talk. Yeah, I'm putting this all. We'll inshallah we can continue on Friday. I appreciate the discussions. Jazakumullah khair. I hope I'm giving some adequate answers. If you guys want other contacts, maybe feel free to reach out and I can provide you guys with some top-notch guys, inshallah. Okay. So, subhanallah bihamdi subhanakallahumma bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.